Hello. Now I'm going to talk really, really slow because we've got an hour. Nick is fine.
Sorry.
How many of you are front-end developers? How many of you are using Angular? How many of you are using React? All right. How many of you don't know what is React? All right, cool. So I tell you the truth. This talk wasn't on the original plan, so I didn't know what to prepare. So in the next hour, I'm trying to give you like a sense of how to work with Angular. But just in case, I've got some alternatives. So if you like, you can do the original one. If you like, I've got an how to be a front-end cat with React in 60 minutes. Up to you. And if you're all hungry and just waiting for lunch, we can do how to bake a great cake in 60 minutes. So for me, it's the same. We'll go with Angular? Yeah. Let's go with Angular. All right, so I forgot your names. Sorry. You already read my bullets. So that's me. I'm a Google developer expert. I'm the head of Angular development in my company, a company named from Hungry Tech. We're based in Tel Aviv. We're based in now in New York City as well. I'm doing Angular for years, but I'm a front-end developer, so Angular is my main issue, but I'm doing a lot of great other stuff, like traveling the world and talking with people and meeting people. And I've never been at Atlas before, so nice to be here. Thank you. All right, let's think before we deep dive into Angular. Next month we are organizing the second round of the Angular App. It's an international conference just like this one, community driven, in Tel Aviv. So if any one of you will like to hear more details, or maybe join us, talk with me later. I can give you some great stuff. Ready? Yeah? Let's do it. Welcome to the jungle. The jungle of front-end. Yeah? You can hear me. Yeah, everyone can hear me. Okay. Yes. All right. Welcome to the jungle, to the front-end jungle. Like all of you already know, front-end today is jungle. React, Angular, whatever, frameworks, technologies, stuff. Let's try to see how Angular can make you a lion without long hair, like mine. Angular is a platform. It's more than a platform. It's more a platform than a framework. I mean, it's a platform that lets you build JavaScript applications for multiple other platforms on top of web technologies. You use JavaScript, you use plain HTML, you use plain CSS, and you can build whatever you like to build. So you've got a great talk tomorrow. My good friend Sunny Yusuf is talking about the Ionic, about hybrid apps. You might already heard about native script, building native, real native applications with Angular. I think most of them knows that you can actually build a desktop application with Angular, progressive web applications. Yeah, makes sense. Angular will let you do all of these with the same principle, standard web technologies, nothing new. So the big questions, I'm teaching Angular for years now, and the concern about Angular 2 and above for a lot of people is the learning curve. Just remind me, how many of you already use Angular 2 and above? All right. Who doesn't use Angular and think it's a complicated framework? Is there anyone like it? Yeah. All right. So my job today is to show you, I hope, that it's not that complicated like you think. Because if you already know how to write HTML, all of you, yeah? CSS, all of you? JavaScript, all of you? All right. Now the interesting part, how many Java developers in the crowd? Few. C#? Right, so for you it's going to be even easier than people who's doing just JavaScript for the past years. All right, so we got the agenda. We'll start with the basics and then deep dive into the code. So let's make it a fun session. Angular application on its core consists of 5 types, 5 classes. We build modules, and Angular modules. Angular modules is just a logical group of functionality, nothing special. An Angular application is a bunch of Angular modules that we put together. Inside of a module, we've got 4 other types. We've got a component, a pipe, a service, and a directive. I know that you are thrilled inside. Right? Right, let's see another slide that emphasizes that you just 5 types. Let's see another slides that take all the types that I showed you before, but arrange them differently. So above the line, we can see the 3 of those 5 types are all about the view, and the other one is logic. So let's see another slide that I put down to say exactly what I said before, but with different words. Everything is a class. And now the most important slide of today's session, which is this one. Can anyone please tell me what we can learn from this one? The user. Anyone else?
Modularity.
Ideas?
Components?
I've got an hour. I can sit down. No. This slide says that we can learn Angular from just watching slides. So let's stop this stuff. It's not always that sophisticated, you know. That's the user experience of trying to reach Angular in the dark. That's the reason it's dark around. That's the person who wants to learn how to now. It's just a slide. Sometimes it's just a slide. All right. So as I told you, we'll have to see this slide again because I need the next one. As I told you before, Angular is a platform who aim to try to solve a lot of issues in the development process, not just APIs for building applications. So we will start our live coding session that hopefully will succeed. Success. Well, we don't speak English. Yeah. We start by setting up a new project. Anyone knows about all those icons? Karma, NPM, Yarn, Angular, TypeScript, Webpack, blah 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 blah. In one word, configuration, the most fun part of every development process. Now tell me the truth, is there anyone here who actually love to configure all those stuff and hope that it will work? No, none of us. Last slide, I'm using the WebStorm IDE. Who else is using the WebStorm IDE? Just, right, you don't have to. I mean, all the tools that I'm showing are open source. You can do it with every text editor you like. Angular CLI. We will start our journey right here. Angular CLI, a command line tool that will generate a brand new project for you with all the dependencies, all the modules, all the wiring, all the setup that you will ever need. And this is not like a demo project, it's a production ready. So I can tell you that this simple command, everyone can see it, ng new. Let's make a game. ng new game will create a production ready project that it can suit like a side project for the weekend, and you can build your entire enterprise on exactly the same setting. And if you like to do something custom, you're welcome. But right now I'm generating a project. I'm downloading all the dependencies I need, all the basic configuration I need. You can see here that I'm using Yarn, but you can use NPM. Yarn is it's the new guy in the package management world, all right? And that's it. So let's see what we got. Hitting WebStorm, going to my workspace. Hopefully I put it in my workspace. Of course not. I put it right inside my user folder, which is here. All right. Now we're going to spend a lot of time here, so please tell me if you can see the code. You want me to make it larger?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So right out of the box, we've got an Angular project with the basic dependencies that we need, including end-to-end testing with a tool named Protractor, unit testing with Karma and Jasmine. We've got TS-Lint. Who doesn't know what is a TS-Lint? Most of you know. It's a static tool for checking conventions and applying a scheme of rules upon our code. But you know what? Forget about all of this. Let's just click ng-serve, and we are starting a Webpack development server that will launch this project. And I can go to my browser. The default port is 4200. Doesn't look very exciting, but you've got the Angular 2, Angular 2, Angular 4, Angular 5. We've got an Angular development environment ready to go. Just put your code inside. And don't be mistaken, you've got everything you need here. Environment variables, everything is, you can configure everything you need. You've got support for SAS, LESS, you name it. All right? Cool. So let's move forward. It wasn't very hard. We've got our new app now. Yeah. User interface. User interface. The user interface, the component. The component-oriented UI, every framework used components those days, and the component is just a unit of view. Take the JavaScript, HTML, CSS, put them together, call the component, and that's it. I mean, most of you already know it. I know that it was originally a Drupal conference, so if there is any Drupal developers here? All right. All right, so like Drupal, yeah? There's components in Drupal? I don't know. Anyway, component. The whole idea behind the component is let's break our view to smaller pieces that we can manage, that we can compose together, that we can reuse. So, we are going to build a very, very, very simple game, because I was thinking about coding a to-do list, but to-do list is like, you have seen a to-do list? It's a great application to do it. You can demonstrate everything with a to-do list, but it's a to-do list. You know? So you've got this template on my GitHub, and if any one of you would want to do the same session, after this on Saturday, I don't know, all week, you're welcome. Let's take this view. Let's break it down. Let's do it a very object-oriented thinking. So I'm thinking about taking the header and just making an object out of it, a class that describes the header. I'm thinking about taking all this row of holes and make it a class. And I'm thinking about the single hole. So, if I want to describe it with custom elements, it will probably look like this. I've got a root element, I call it a game. I've got a header, I've got a loan, and I've got a hole. Because Angular, like other frameworks, are just a framework for building custom elements. We are building custom elements. It's much more, it's manageable, it's maintainable, it's reusable, and it's declarative, and it's a lot of another buzzwords. I can say dashboard and big data and stuff that has nothing to do with Angular, but it sounds good. All right, I can describe it as a tree of objects as well. All right, cool. So let's see how we can do it with Angular. I've got here, right here, I've got the HTML and the CSS for this project. It's two pictures, header and the mole. All right. The mole PNG it's a sprite. It's like a series of images. And I've got the header PNG. I've got the CSS, plain CSS, nothing special, and an index HTML. I want to start with, I want to take the pictures. Let me reveal it in the Finder. And from inside this mole, I'll take the header PNG and the mole PNG. And inside an Angular CLI application, I've got a folder named Assets. I can just put it inside. And when I build my project, those files will be accessible because this folder will be a static assets folder. So we finish with our static assets. Back to the resources. All right, CSS. This editor is Visual Studio Code. You know this editor? Mm-hmm. Open source. Microsoft did something good, which is not a Word or Excel. We've got plenty of time to talk slower. All right, we can take all of this CSS, go back to our Angular CLI project, and here we've got a style CSS, which means that everything that we'll put inside the style CSS will be a global CSS. And they even put you a note. You can add global styles to this file. Thank you. All right. So I've got my styles. I've got my static assets. The Angular CLI already produced a root component. You can see here that the component is a combination, like I told you before, of CSS, HTML. A spec file is a pre-made unit testing file already configured to write a unit test for the app, and the app component, which is the most important stuff because this is basically the class. Now in Angular, you write simple classes, simple TypeScript classes. Is there anyone here who doesn't know what is TypeScript? All right, cool. Regular class, and this decorator, this annotation above the class, it's the configuration, the metadata for Angular. So you should know what to do with this class. Because I want to attach a template, as you can see, the template URL, and I want to attach a CSS file, and I want to build all of those together to a type that Angular can build a component out of this. So that's the idea behind Angular. Everything is a plain class, and most of the time you've got an annotation that can add some configuration and metadata to this class. And the component is the most complicated class of them all because the component is the only class who has a template and styles. Now, if you don't want to create a bunch of files for each component, to see separate CSS files, separate HTML files, separate JavaScript files, which can be a headache, you can do it inline. So I can remove this template URL and just write hello Angular. I can remove the styles URL and just put some inline styles, but it's totally up to you. It's got nothing to do with performance, it's got nothing to do with nothing else, just for your convenience. For us, I don't need here any CSS, I don't need any special template. We can go back to the browser and we can see an exception. Failed to compile, and I'm happy that we've got an error because this is the chance to have a look at how Angular rendering the error message right in your face on the screen in plain English, which is very important. You don't need to open the console, you don't need to look for something. So I'm happy that we've got a fail to compile, and we've got an explanation that basically said that I put a style CSS, and inside my style CSS I've got a link to an image. It was from the original assets, but now I need to take it from the assets. I can go back to my browser and everything should look the same. The only reason you don't see this H1 with the hello Angular because the CSS is overriding the body color. So it's there, but you can't see it. So you have to believe me. I can prove it to you if you like. But, believe me, it's there. You can see here, you see color white. Take it away, all right? I've got a fully working environment, everything updated, module pushing, refreshing, buzzword, but it's working, so I'm happy with it. In general, I'm very happy with tools that works. That's my agenda. Okay, so let's start to build our game. So I talked about that today we are in a component-oriented state of mind. So we take those chunks of HTML, those views, and break them into a logical parts. So we can reuse it and maintain it and build complex views with smaller parts. But let me start by taking all of this code, starting from the this game, copy it, and I want to create a component. I want to create a tag named game, and it will should be the root for our application. All right. So I can I can create a file and name it, like put the import statement above it, and decorate the component, the stuff, and all this fun. And I can go to the command line, ng generate component, and just name my component. So I can do like, let's generate a game component, all right? But wait a second, I talked about modules. What is modules? What do I need them? If I start to generate like a bunch of components, in these applications I've got a single module, which doesn't really make sense. Think of a module as a class. I don't want a single class to deal with all the functionality of my application. I've got a game. Let's create a context for this game. Let's call Angular CLI and generate a module called game. Who doesn't like command line? Tell me the truth. All of you? Alright, cool. I don't like command lines. If you're working with WebStorm, you can just go a new file. You've got Angular CLI. You can choose component or module or whatever you want to generate. All right. Just give it a name, like give me a game module, and that's it. And WebStorm will delegate to Angular CLI and create a folder, game, and a game module for us. So you should know. So if you don't like to learn a lot of commands, it should be much easier. Any questions? You're quiet. So there are two options. You understand everything, you're amazed. What a great live coding session. Angular is such a fun, or you're falling asleep. Let's hope it's the first option. Great, so I got a module. What is a module? A module is just a class like everything else in Angular with a metadata. But if I want to put it in simple words, it's a class, and I use this class to register my components. Because all of my component classes can't just float in air. They got to have some kind of context together. And basically that's it. So inside the game module, I'm going to create a game component. Angular CLI, component, a game component like we see in the slide. I don't want the template to be in a separate file, so I can use a lot of flag, like put the style inline, put the template inline. I don't have to repeat it every time. I can just put it in the configuration, and each time I'm generating a component, I will get just a single file as I like. All right. So maybe we'll do it in a second. I don't want a test file. And the last one I will explain you in a second. So I'm creating a component. All right. And you can see that Angular CLI taking this new class, this game component, it registers it on the module class. In other words, it's doing all the wirings. They are part of the registration process of Angular, and I don't need to be worried about it. So what I did right now is generated a new file. You see it's a class, a game component. You've got some extra metadata that Angular need to know how to work with it. The name of the selector, the name of the tag, the template, the CSS. An Angular application, it's a collection of modules. So now if I got a game module, I need to register it on my main module, on my app module. So I can put the game module here. And now I can use its components. So instead of hello Angular, I can put app game. Because of the CSS, you can see a thing. Wait a second. Let me open up a special debugger that was developed especially for Angular applications. It's called Ogre, and it will help me to see the tree of components that I'm building. All right. So now, as you can see, I've got an app component and a game component. You can also see it in the elements. I've got the app root. I've got the app game, and inside of it, this is the default p tag. All right. Everyone cool about this one? All right. So I can move a little bit fast forward and build some more components. So back to the resources. This game doesn't have a lot of HTML because it's not our main focus. I can take all of this HTML. I can just throw it inside the template of the game component. Let's make everything disappear. All right. I can just throw it here. We need to fix this header because now it's from the assets. And if everything working as it should, we can see the game. Because there is no magic. I just took a bunch of HTML and put it inside the template of a class. All right? Now the fun begins. Let's take a look of this class. We can see that I can take all of this and do something really nice. I can take all of this and put it inside a header component. So I will cut this template. I'm going to the command line tool, which you all like. I'm going to generate a component inside the game module. I will call it a header, inline template, inline style, without any testing. I'm going to create another one because now I'm going to create a component to deal with this row of holes. So let me create the loan component, and the last class will be in charge to render just a single hole. So I can create the hole component. And now, inside this game component, I can use the header. Inside the header component, I can put just the HTML needed for the header and breaking the view into smaller pieces. Instead of the loan, I can cut it. I can put the app loan that I just created. As you can see, it's become very declarative. I can see tags that mean something to me, not big chunks of HTML. Inside this loan component, I can put all of this stuff. Eventually, there is only one whole class, whole component, just different CSS classes. So I can take all of this out. I can take this out and replace it with app hole. And inside of app hole, just putting a single hole. It might seem confusing if you're just starting with Angular, but I think that most of you can understand that this is scales very well. Because if you look at the folder structure now, you can see a very well-defined separation of concerns. I've got a folder named game. I've got a game module. The game module includes a loan, a hole, a header, a game, object-oriented styles or state of thinking. Each entity, each part of you has its own class, all right? Its own responsibility. If I did everything all right, everything should seems to be right. I can take a look inside HTML. I see the app root, app game, app header, app loan. All right. Inside the app loan, I've got the app hole, which makes my debugging a little bit easier, because if I got any issues with how the hole looks like, I know exactly to which class to go on my project. Don't seem to be excited. But you should. If you build a complex UI, you should. All right. These augury, these extensions for Angular can show me the exact same thing, but it's isolated just the components, so I don't need to see all the elements. So here's the game, the header, the lawn, and the whole component. The same thing I can do with the CSS. I won't do it now. Maybe if we will get time, I will break the CSS as well. I can leave my CSS right here on the global CSS, but I can take the relevant pieces, like I can take the game CSS, right? Let's do it just for one. I can take the game CSS, I can take it out and put it inside a game component. Yeah, because it's a view unit. This way, I creating encapsulation. That means that this CSS class will apply only to this component template. So it won't interrupt with any other classes. I can use general classes, H1, div, whatever. It's scoped to this component. You're building a view unit, all right? So let's do it with the game. We leave the rest here. If we get any time, let's go to the game component. Here's inside the styles. I can just drop it here. I can fold it, and everything should look exactly the same. Last thing, let's go to the loan. We've got only one hole. Let's duplicate it. And I'm finished with the UI. Even if some of you look at this live demo, it feels like, all right, he said it's not too complicated, but he knows what he's doing and is moving very fast. I want you to take from this that if you will gain this practice, breaking a UI to pieces will be a very easy process. I didn't really did something complicated. Just use some commands and generate some classes. That's it. Cool? All right. Back to the slides. Business logic, that's my favorite part. So we've got the UI, and we've got all the rest of the code. The code that goes to the network, the code that filtering our data, that holds our model, and blah, 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 all our application logic. And in Angular, it's a very easy thing to do because we just use plain JS. So basically, I don't need to know nothing about Angular. And when you finish with the view, with the UI, with all of this component chopping, and you got into the business logic, you just write plain code, no tricks. Which means that I can go inside the game folder. I can create a class, a simple class. Let's call it a game. I will call it a game service because it's a convention, all right? TS, and I'll just write a class in it. Now I don't need to work hard, of course. I can go to Angular CLI and ask him create me a class, or better, create me a service. The difference between them, that if I'm creating a service, let's call it a game, all right? Angular CLI will create it with the convention, game.service.ts. It will create a spec file, a test file ready to go. So now I can run unit test and actually test my logic. And it generates a simple class. Now you see this decorator, this empty decorator? I can ignore it for now. Everything will work. So inside of Angular, we finish with the UI, and we can just write our logic. So we've got a hole, and this hole got a private state, which is a string, because I've seen we can replace the CSS classes. So each hole can have different state, like it can be up when we can see this mole, and it can be a heat when we heat it. It's a different image. I can define the clear state, which means empty class. This class will represent a hole. This state will start with hole clear. And I can create a getter and a setter for this state. If you ever worked with Java, C#, or any other classic object-oriented class style program, this is the world of TypeScript and Angular. Object-oriented style. It's still JavaScript, but it compiles, it contains types, it can catch most of our errors at compile time, and the syntax is more friendly. I mean, for me, my roots are on Java, way back before. All of your business logic is just plain code. I've got nothing to say. I'm just taking my time. Any questions? It's a small hole. There's not a lot of people. We can ask questions. All right, cool. So I've got the hole. Yeah, I should choose my words. I've got a whole class. Now I can create the actual game. So the game will hold an array of holes. I will change this demo, believe me. I will choose different names. All right? It can contain an array of holes. So these holes, I can initialize it with empty string. Let's do just one thing. Let's create a score so we can check the score. And everything I'm doing now is plain logic, and I don't care about the implementation of if I'm doing something right or wrong, because it's totally up to you. There's no rules here, no Angular rules here, but we can start with 0. Let's create the actual game loop. Alright, so we set an interval. It will run for, if you catch something, please let me know if I miss something. An interval of 1 second. In this interval, let's take a random index, math. We can do a floor and a math, a random number, multiplied by these holes, right? These holes is giving length, so we can get a custom index within the range. And now I can call this pip. Let's take this holes array, pick 1, and this pip doesn't exist yet, but it will. Private pip, hole, type hole, and now I can take this hole and say that the state equals to hole up, and after I don't know, after a very small amount of time, if hole state not equals to hole hit, which means no one hit him while it was up, I can just hole state equals hole clear. And the last thing I want to write here is the hit method, public hit, which accepts the hole. And what I want to do with it, I want to take this hole state equals to hole hit. And let's do something like this. No, I want to do something else. want to stop the game loop. I don't want to hit and the game keep running. So you can save this interval, this loop. Let's create a loop. And now I can say if you hit, right? If whole state equals to whole up, then change it to hit, clear interval, stop this loop, stop it, make it a hit, and set timeout, and after a few seconds take this whole, let's say after this, and we're done. What's our time? Great, 20 minutes. 20 minutes, yeah? 20 minutes cost us. Yeah, alright, cool. It's nothing exciting. I just promised you a live coding, so don't want to copy paste nothing. That's it, alright? But if you got any question regarding the syntax or this kind of work, so feel free to interrupt me. I can't answer you while I'm coding because I'm a single-threaded man, right? Like most of us, which are men. Set timeout. So after the whole hit, let's take this whole state, this whole state, make it disappear, whole clear, and this loop again. Yeah, no loop. How we call it? Yeah, loop. Game loop. This game loop, and we're done. But if we got a hit, let's this score and make it up. All right. Inside the constructor, I can start the game, this game loop, and the only thing that you can take from this that when you're dealing with business logic, I don't care if it's Angular or not. So I'm done. I'm done. I don't need to register it for now. I can simply go to my game component, which is a class. Everything is a class. I can go inside the constructor. I can create, let's create a public game. The type will be a game service, and just initiate it. This game equals new game service. All right, basic. And I can prove you that this code is working. Let's go to the game service. Let's instead of initialize with just no holes at all, let's put some holes inside of it. I like to do my loops like this. Let count equals to 4, and then I can do a while, and the count minus minus this holes push a new hole. The only thing that I'm missing that we didn't create a getter for these holes, so I won't be able to see it. Very Java-like experience. All right. Now, basically, I can go to my game component, which is a class that represents a view, and just use this logic. New instance of game service. I can do like a game dot holes, and you can see that if I log it, what happened? You don't like something. I cannot find name game. Because it is, yeah. I don't want it. Just for the fun of it, all right? I can go back to the browser and expecting to open the console and to see an array of 4. Nothing excited, a class, instance of a class, but what's the problem with this code? If someone will answer the right answer, I will give him a prize. That's the way to get you interactive, huh? I've got a bag full of prices. I've got a suitcase full of prices. I've got nothing to give you.
Yeah, you should inject the service. Construct how to call it every time.
That's it. I've got two problems. The first one is separation of concerns. I mean, let's talk classes. If the constructor of the game service will change, I will need to touch two classes, the game component class and the game service class. I mean, the game component class has the knowledge of how to create a game service, which is like kind of a bad design. But a bigger issue, if I want a reference to the game service from another place, I can't because I initiated it inside my class. I should create another instance and save it in like some kind of global or import it in each and every place I want to use it. In other words, Angular makes it easier for us. Angular implement the pattern named dependency injection, and dependency injections behind this this name that sometimes get people to to a little bit confused. It just said create a class, register it with Angular, and forget about it. If you want a reference to it, just ask it. That's it. Really, that's it. Which means that now I can take my game service and inside my module, all right, inside my game modules, I can create an array of providers. Providers mean each class I'm putting inside, I want you to provide me. Put my game service inside, and inside my game component, I don't care how you give me this game, I'm asking it in the constructor, please give me a game service, a reference to the game service, and that's it. When Angular will create the instance of the game component, he will be in charge to create an instance of the game service and provide it to me. That's it. And by default, it's a singleton. So on each component, if I want a reference to the same instance of the game service, I'm just mentioning in the constructor. That's it. So one of the unique things about Angular, because other frameworks that doesn't implement this pattern, is we don't need to think about wiring. Create your classes, register it with Angular. All right. This is the idea of that's called the inversion of control. Who calling your code? I'm writing my classes and register it with Angular, and I don't want to think about it. I'm asking for the dependencies in the constructor. Done deal. All right. Cool. So we've got the logic, which was very easy because it was a simple class, and we've got our view. It's time to put it all together. So the learning curve of Angular is that last part. Because generated classes and put it some templates, it's easy. Writing our business logic as simple classes, it's easy. And the thing that you need to learn is the spatial syntax that allows you to do the data binding. How do I bind this data to my components, all right, to the view? So, some slides. We've got this game service. I want to inject it. I already did. I asked for him in the game class, and I want the game component to take this state and wait a second. I want the game component to take this state and pass it to the loan component. In the Angular way, it means that the loan component will get an input, a property. The parent can pass me a property. The game component knows about the game service. The loan component doesn't know nothing about the game service. On the other way, I can define the output, a way out. The loan component, when something happens, can just fire an event, and the game component will know what to do with it, because the game component knows about the game service. Cool? All right. So this is called stateless UI, just rendering. Let's see how it's look inside of Angular. The Angular way of thinking, you've got a whole component, a whole class. Think of it as a class. What is the responsibility of the whole class? To render a single whole. That's it. Which means that I want to have a hole, a public hole class instance, alright? Let me just remove all of this. I want to have a hole class member so I can work with it inside the template. Inside the template I've got a special syntax for binding, but it's not something that you haven't seen before. If I want to add a class here, I can just put the curly braces and say, okay, if I get a hole, please put here the whole state, which is a string. That's the first kind of data binding expression. Look at this code. I don't think it's too complicated to understand, really, not because I'm doing Angular for years. But one problem, where does the whole come from? I don't know where it's come from. I want to, how many of you did Angular 1? Most of you. So if you write a directive and you want to pass to a directive some kind of property, you need to define an isolated scope, and then mapping in the isolated scope with special characters. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, yeah? The Angular 1 guys.
Yeah.
So in Angular 2 it's much easier. If I get a class, a whole component, a new tag named whole, and I want to enable to initialize this whole from outside as a property, I just put an input above of it. Yeah, that's it. I'm done with this class. This public whole member, someone else will pass it as a property. All right, who is someone else? Who's dealing with it? The long. What is the responsibility of the long class? The long class, well, the long class is responsible for iterating an array of wholes and instantiate a whole for each item in the array. So now the whole component can accept a whole input. See that WebStorm is already completed it for me. Great tooling, great support. So I can pass in a whole. And this component, this long, in order to work, she needs to know about an array of wholes. So she needs to have wholes, which is an whole array, all right? But she doesn't know nothing about the game service. Where should it get the wholes from? Not God, the parent. An input. Now if I get the wholes, I can use Angular directives, which is the second kind of class. Angular directives are just shortcuts for doing DOM manipulation, adding behavior to elements in a very declarative and simple way. If I want to do a for each loop, I should learn how to write this one, ng4, which represents a for each loop. For each whole of wholes. This is the learning curve. This is the language that you need to learn. You need to learn all those spatial directives, and there isn't too much, and you can write your own. But if you do learn that, that's the power of Angular. I mean, we can do it in a lot of other ways. When I'm building React applications, I can do the same thing, but I'm writing through JavaScript, which is fine, but this is another approach. Let's just make a shortcut out of it. Let's make an expression, ng4, and we will do all the rest of the stuff. All right, let's code. So now the head hole is ng4 of a bunch of holes. On each iteration, it instantiates a head hole and pass it a hole. Yeah, you remember the hole get an input hole inside. The last thing I want to do is every time someone clicks the hole, I want to hit. How to add an event listener in Angular? Choose an event from the DOM, whatever event you like. I don't know. I want to catch a click and put it inside of round. In Angular, each property can be dynamic. You can pass it something dynamic if you put the square brackets. Every event you can register to it if you put the round brackets. Round brackets? No. Thank you. All right? All right. Someone will click on this hole. I want to react to this click, but I don't know what to know because I don't know nothing about the game service. I can create a constructor here and inject, ask for the game service and interact with it, but it's considered to be a bad practice performance side, but it's out of scope for this talk. More than I want a single component, a parent component, to deal with the logic. I want to do it in one place. So I want to create an event, a public. Let's call this custom event hit. I don't know how to create an event, so we're going to use a helper class named event emitter. An event emitter got a method named emit. You know how to emit an event. So now each time you click, I can take this hit and call the emit, and even pass with this event the whole. But just like before, I've got an instance of something called event emitter. I can emit events, but something missing. How this event become a regular DOM event that I can register with and all this stuff. So Angular, you create simple code here, but you decorate it. You add functionality with annotations. This time I'm going to use the output. Let's stop for a second and take a look at this now. Alright, this slide. I've got the game, know about the game service, is passing array of holes to the loan. The loan is iterating on the array and create a hole, and each time I'm clicking a hole, I'm bubbling an event, just like HTML works, with events and properties. So if everything is wired together, I can go upstairs to the game component, and now it should be easy. At loan, I want to pass it holes. I've got holes, yes, game.holes. Alright? It's expose a custom event, hit. I know what to do with this hit? Yes, I'm the game component. I'm smart. I know about the game service. I can call game hit. Alright? The header component should know how to show me the score. So if I had a score, I could show it, but I don't have one. I can get it from my parent, public score, which is a number, which is an input, just like before, give me a score. And now the game component said, all right, I want to use the header, and I want to pass in the score. I know about the score, yes. I know about the game service. I can ask for the score if Nir was exposing the score, which he didn't. Getter, score. I don't know. Maybe now, almost working. Okay, I can catch it. Catch it. Good. Yeah. Too complicated. But the game started to work. All right. Let's see how with time. Okay, we got few less minutes. I can see I have some kind of an issue because when I click it, it doesn't seem to change, to react to the heat.
I think you forgot to pass the hole in game hit.
Yeah, I think cannot read property state of undefined. I mean, for some reason, the state is undefined. Why the state is undefined? Well, I know what's going on. I'm right here in the game component. I'm taking the hit, but I'm not taking the hole that come with the event. I want the event. Now everything should work. If I can catch one. Yeah. Alright, and the score as well. Alright. Let's summarize. I know it was very intensive. Alright? But I got some final words for you. Alright. This live demo The main purpose was to demonstrate how an Angular developer is starting to build something. Basically, we're dealing with 5 types, 5 different kind of classes. We're thinking in object-oriented state of mind. We're breaking a view into components. Components are just classes, instances, all right? I can say that in one sentence, Angular, for the UI, it's an API to create a custom element. A custom element is a component. A custom property that had a behavior to the element called directive. I'm directing, I'm doing some kind of something. There is another type that we didn't have the chance to see because I don't want to hold you here, which called the pipe, which helped me to display view property in a different way. So everything is a class. We are breaking our view into components. We are injecting our logic, just writing bits of logic and ask for it in the constructor. And we need to learn the syntax of binding to the template. All right? So last sentence, and let you go eat something. Where are we eating anyway? Outside there. Yeah? All right. All right, cool. On this Sunday, while I'm here, I'm doing a workshop as part of this event. I think that if someone still want to register, I think they still got any places. It won't be like a beginner show. It's something more particular. It's specific. It's the state management with Angular, deep dive, some serious stuff. I'm invite each one of you. I'm here in Greece for the next few days. So you can catch me up, you can talk with me, you can take everything you want from me. I'm just coding Angular all day and all night. I've got nothing better to do, and I'm very far away from home. So use this, right? And if you want to follow up and to see where I'm going, what I'm doing, and how to bake a cake in 60 minutes, so check out my Twitter. Anyway, thank you very, very much. See you around.